This was over extremely early, a really tough game to watch. Almost, if you were writing one of those, 3 up, 3 down sort of columns right now, what would you do?
Run game up, everything else down. I suppose
run game up for like a quarter
for the
until
first
they abandoned it.
Right. And the score and all that kind of stuff, you have to, if you're down 3 touchdowns, you're not going to keep running the ball into a brick wall. I mean, obviously you're going to try to throw the football, but I just think that tonight was, sort of a microcosm of all the issues that they have on both sides of the football, the roster deficiencies, the quarterbacking problems, the receiver problems. But I think the main thing when you look at the quarterback, and I know some people think we harp too much on the quarterback, some people think we don't give enough blame to the quarterback. I think the main thing that you really look at with the quarterback position in Cam Newton is that there's just a lack of improvement week to week, right? He's not getting any better within the structure of the offense. It's not necessarily going through every single throw and nitpicking ball placement and was it accurate, was it not accurate, was it a drop, was the receiver in the right spot? No, it's just the big picture things about playing the quarterback position, knowing when a blitz is coming and knowing where your answer is to that blitz off of that, setting your feet and making a throw there before the half to N'Keal Harry instead of throwing off of 1 foot and sort of jump passing it down the field. Things like that I think
even the touchdown, Evan, was a result of not feeling pressure. That easily could have been a sack.
Yeah, and I think that those are the sort of things that more so than nitpicking every single throw and studying ball placement and trying to tag it as an accurate throw or an inaccurate throw, it's the big picture things that are really more of a struggle in terms of, like you said, awareness, pocket awareness of pressure, awareness of blitzes. That second, third down that Cam Newton took a 13-yard sack on, he has the answer against the blitz on Damiere Byrd on a shallow crosser. That's his hot, right? When the blitz comes, he sees the blitz. That's where his eyes are supposed to go immediately. Instead, he's staring down the left side of the field, trying to let those deeper passing concepts past the sticks develop, and the blitz is coming right at him, and he doesn't really react to it. And I think that's, just one thing that you keep on seeing with him every single week is that lack of reaction to pressure, that lack of feel for where his answers are. It's just a whole lot of the same mistakes over and over again.
And that's what's infuriating is I'm tired of listening to you say that.
Yeah.
And it's not because you're wrong. It's because you've said it every week, because that's been the case every week. When you talk about no improvement, you're talking he's either been flat or shown regression over some weeks, week to week, in all of those things that you mentioned. And I think this is where people are losing their minds here is I don't believe, and put me in this category, I do not want to see Jarrett Stidham play because I think Jarrett Stidham is better than Cam Newton. I just can't watch this anymore.
Right.
It's what, from a development standpoint, what this is, what you've got. Okay, so you're not learning anything, and really just from an aesthetic standpoint, it's ugly. It's hard to watch, and you've seen it over and over again. So you're almost getting frustrated watching that lack of improvement, the lack of progression, and in fact, in many ways, the longer it goes on, the more you see that how many flaws there are in his game, and it just hammers home the point that it's obviously. And again, I think. You grudgingly came to this conclusion maybe last week, or even though you've been trending there most of the way, but you've been giving him as fair a shot as anybody out there, which is there's some good in there too, and it's not all on him. And you finally came to the conclusion, I believe last week, that they know they can't go forth with Cam.
No.
So I don't, for the life of me, understand the logic in playing him in tonight's game. Because again, it's not just, you're never going to learn a thing about Stidham, putting him in relief, down a bunch of points. If you want to learn anything at all, you have to give him a week's worth of reps and let him run the offense in a game that starts 0-0.
Yeah, and honestly, I tweeted out, some people agree with me, some people don't. I kind of thought Stidham was worse in this game in a lot of ways than Cam.
Sure, but again,
one of the biggest things
he's up against.
Right, and that's the biggest thing, though, is that he is coming into these games cold, down 4 touchdowns already, and what can you really expect out of it, any player in that position? But I think the biggest thing that you see with Stidham is a lot of the same issues that you see with Cam. I mean, he dirted a bunch of throws out there, too, and skipped passes and stuff like that, bounce passes. passes, throwing into defenders' leverage instead of away from the leverage. That second throw that he had after the long Myers completion, where the middle of the field just opened up like the parting the Red Sea for him. That was an easy pass that any high school quarterback could have made. And then he comes back on the next throw and he throws right into the defender's leverage and almost throws an interception. It just reading out leverage and making leverage-based throws is just such a simple part of quarterbacking that any NFL starting quarterback should be able to see. Okay, the defender there has got inside leverage on this throw. I can't throw an in-breaking route against an inside leverage corner because I'm throwing into the defender's body and into his area to kind of intercept the pass. But I think mainly what you see with both of these quarterbacks is neither one of them are really the answer. But secondly, in terms of kind of just evaluating this team, if you're going to put any quarterback in there, we can talk about all of this. We can talk about Trey Lance. We can talk about Zach Wilson. We can talk about Justin Fields. We can talk about Mac Jones and Kyle Trask and go right down to Stafford and all the NFL quarterbacks. If they don't improve the roster around the QB at the wide receiver and tight end position, I don't care who you put back there. It's not going to matter all that much.
No doubt. But last week, near the end of our postgame show, we talked quite a bit about what they should do in the draft. And I was saying I would just load up on weapons, address it again and again and again and again, both in free agency and multiple times in the draft. If Pitts is there when it's your turn to draft, take him. Right. Then go receiver. Then sign a free agent receiver. And you were saying, well, you need the quarterback. So we're in a real chicken and egg sort of spiral here with the situation. They need both. They have to address both simultaneously. The problem is I think you can get weapons and stockpile because they're available, but they're always available in the draft, and there's a ton available in free agency. But you pick wrong at the quarterback position, you might be stuck into a long-term contract, or you draft the wrong guy desperately. You take a Haskins type person who you're not in love with, but it's the best available when you're picking, and you got to develop them for a few years, and that can set you back a couple of years, which is why for me, I have to think they got to go for weapons first because you can get them. And then maybe it's another stopgap year with a quarterback. Maybe you're waiting for a year or two until the guy arrives. But the last thing you want to do is rush into a situation where you trade for somebody or give a long-term contract to a person who's a slight upgrade who's still not going to get you where you need to go.
And that's sort of been my kind of this take on this entire situation is, we can go and we can turn on Sunday's action. And I watched football on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday this week before this Patriot game on Monday night. And I just was sitting there thinking to myself, man, the passing game play overall, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, all of it, even pass protection in a lot of ways is just so much worse here in New England versus anything that we see in the rest of the NFL. I mean, really almost any team. Like, you can go and turn on the Jets last week and Sam Darnold and those receivers are making plays. They're better off than what the Patriots are at right now. And that's the Jets, who a lot of people thought were going to be the worst team in the league. It just right on down the line of whether it's such a chicken or the egg thing, because sometimes it's a weapon, sometimes it's Cam. They scheme up that double pass early on in the game. They run the two crack toss plays. They get the entire Bills defense to bite on the double pass, and Damiere Byrd just drops a wide open touchdown, right? I mean, that's not on Cam. The ball is right there. That's a great pass, or a good pass. I wouldn't call it a great pass, given the situation. But
floated a tad, but still, right.
It's a very catchable ball, right? That should have been there. Yeah, and he drops it. I mean, what are you going to do about that? And then Bill Belichick was asked at halftime, what can you do better with your passing offense? And he said, catch the ball. So it felt like Bill kind of put a lot of the first half struggles on the receivers not catching the ball instead of on Cam. But it's timing, it's execution, it's just overall just kind of feel in the offense and feel for the game that Cam Newton and his pass catchers, all of them alike, have not been able to grasp all season long. And it's just been such a grind. I mean, they can't even execute slant flat. That's like day one install of middle school football. We're not talking about just NFL football. You run one guy in the flat, you run one guy on the slant. The quarterback reads the underneath defender. If he goes to the flat, he throws the slant. If he goes to the slant, he throws the flat. It's literally the simplest play in football from a passing game standpoint. And they have issues executing that. I mean, that's all you really need to know about this Patriots offense right now.
Yeah, and that's I mean, it's just all sorts of bad. I don't even know where to. It's really hard to evaluate anything else uh, uh, throughout the game. Like, I mean, we could sit here and say, "Oh, N'Keal Harry, where was he again?" But again, one time he got open, another time Cam bounced a ball to him. So I don't know what you do there. You're not going to put it on him. I would say that Devin Asiasi maybe should have stayed on IR. This was a really rough game for him in a lot of different ways.
Pretty sure he's been targeted 5 times in the passing game, has 4 drops or something like that.
Yeah, and again,
it's
one of the throws here was a little bit late, and somebody was a safety or linebacker was coming over, anticipating it. That wasn't great, but you're right. That and missing a block on a sack as well. Just doesn't look right out there. And again, he needs to get to year 2 as fast as anybody. But really, there's not much you can evaluate off of this game. You're just kind of stuck in this, and nothing's going to be cured if next week Stidham starts and you see a little bit out of something. This just needs a whole lot of fixing.
And that's the other thing too, is that they've gotten such poor play by the entire team, including the quarterbacks, but just particularly with the quarterbacks, you don't even know what you have in a lot of these rookie tight ends or N'Keal Harry really, or any of these guys, because there's just no continuity, there's no chemistry, there's no rhythm to their passing game, there's no sharpness at all to it. So I don't think Devin Asiasi is necessarily going to be some star tight end, but how do we even really know? I don't even know how you can properly evaluate some of these younger players right now, because this is just such a mess. And I think that is as much of a detriment to Cam or Stidham or anybody as anything, is that, hey, next year you can bring in somebody like an Alex Smith or a Ryan Fitzpatrick, who probably are still only going to get you to about 7 or 8 wins anyways, but at least there's going to be some sort of professionalism to this passing game where you might actually learn a thing or two about the weapons around the quarterback.